Oh, and regular readers of the editorial page might recognize Don Rhoades' name. That was a great letter you got in there Friday this week.
Thank you.
I always like to mention when any of our group gets one of their letters printed, and you want to give us some highlights. You were basically talking about prayer in school.
Right, and folks that know me know that I'm a pretty mild-mannered guy, but there is a hot-button issue with me, and that is the issue of school prayer. I can't remember the date, but in on a recent editorial page, there was a letter from somebody saying that the tragedy in Littleton, Colorado, was directly attributable to essentially to taking prayer out of school and the religious instruction in school. And this whole line of thought gets me going. I mean, it does get me cranked up. So I flipped off a letter to the statesman basically saying that this was ridiculous and that kids in school did learn some moral principles like fairness. And I didn't put it in the letter, but I'm reminded of the book, Everything I Ever Really Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, which points out the fact that you learn things like you don't cut in line and you don't hit other people and stuff like that. Teachers do reinforce some very basic rules that become part of our morality as we grow older. I also pointed out that I think that people who say that my child should go stand in the hall so they can have loudspeaker prayers, I think those people are of questionable morality themselves. And I firmly believe that. I think religious thinking can lead to amoral positions or immoral positions for otherwise good people. And that was my point there. And I think that the beating of the drums to try to bring this institution back, the organized loudspeaker prayers for kids in public schools, I think that's just a bad example to set for our kids.
Yeah,
thanks for bringing it up and giving me the opportunity to talk about it.
You're very welcome. And that's a great lead into this here, if you don't mind, since we're talking about prayer. This was in a full-page ad in the USA Today about, well, I don't know if you don't have to focus in, I guess, but focus in on the title if you can.
There we go.
Declaration of Dependence. Isn't that a wild title? This has to do with the National Day of Prayer. And actually, I had this stuff last week, and it works out good that I didn't bring it up till this week because I don't want to promote that in any way. So it's already passed, so I'm giving you old news here. But they start off with a bold-faced lie right from the very start. It says, for more than 2 centuries, our national motto has been, in God we trust. Folks, that is false, and they make it sound like, that this is a fact, and they're very happy with it.
It's not. Everyone my age learned in school that the national motto was E pluribus unum.
With one out of many.
From many one.
From many one. I'm
right.
sorry.
Which is a perfectly good, acceptable to everybody, meaningful national motto.
Yeah,
wonderful motto.
And it should be today. Still, it should be our national motto, if you ask me, because it says that's what America is.
You're right.
We take all the immigrants and everybody else that came here, all the different religions, the Muslims, the Jews, the atheists, everybody, and we are a nation of many. And
right.
We're not, there's quite a few of us that have nothing to do with this God. Right. And the cameraman's agreeing with me there. Just reminding everyone, this is Mother's Day, May 9th. We are live. We'd love to hear from any of the atheist mothers out there. Let us know how you're celebrating Mother's Day. And I just drew a total blank there. I'm sorry. So you do have some news articles you brought in.
I got a little bit of news.
Well, let's hand it over to Jeff here.
Governor Jesse Ventura of the state of Minnesota, former pro wrestler and now governor, has refused to sign a proclamation making last Thursday a day of prayer in his state. Ventura broke with his predecessors who typically proclaimed a prayer day in conjunction with a national day of prayer. Quote, I believe in the separation of church and state. We all have our own religious beliefs. There are people out there who are atheists who don't believe at all. They are citizens of Minnesota, and I have to respect that. And
Excellent.
we have to respect Jesse Ventura, which is bizarre. But I guess if the right-wing fundamentalists can respect Ronald Reagan, an actor turned politician, we can respect Jesse Ventura, a pro wrestler turned politician.
So we'll keep we'll definitely keep up to date on him and see what other religious positions he takes and stands there. And I'm glad to see him doing that. And he's the highest ranking Reform Party candidate, and being a governor like that. So, and just a little bit of trivia there.
See how well they do next time around.
Yes.
He did sign a certificate of recognition of the National Day of Prayer. It says a proclamation is signed by the Secretary of State and goes on the state record. A certificate of recognition simply means the governor recognizes that the event is happening, but doesn't declare it as a state-sponsored day, and that's fine. The governor of Virginia also issued a certificate of recognition. I don't know who that person is. Montana issued an endorsement. Arizona issued a brief note of support, and all of the other states issued proclamations. These are government agencies telling people to pray on a particular day, which is just fundamentally against the Constitution. Let's see. The Minnesota Family Council criticized Ventura's decision, saying that the prayer proclamation dates to 1795, when President George Washington declared a day of public thanksgiving and prayer.
That's our Thanksgiving holiday, isn't it?
Is that what yeah,
I'm
but
not sure if it was on the same day that we now celebrate or not.
Yeah, it's not, because that would have been Thanksgiving, I guess.
No,
But in any case, even given that George Washington, the very first president, violated the Constitution, even if that is a fact, that's not a reason to do it now.
Excellent point.
But apparently part of the flap is that Jesse Ventura did declare a Rolling Stones Day on February 15. But, as silly as that is, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that government will not oppose or I forget exactly how it's phrased. Separation of church and the Roman. Yeah, there's no separation of church of state and music.
There you go.
Or of state and rock stars. There just isn't. Maybe there should be, and if you want to go out there and petition for that, you can make it so that Rolling Stones Day would be a violation of the Constitution. Doomsday prophecy triggers panic in India. Thousands of workers have fled India's largest shipbreaking yard in panic following predictions of an impending apocalypse, officials said on Friday. The Alang shipbreaking yard in the western state of Gujarat has been deserted following strong rumors about a doomsday catastrophe befalling the area on Saturday. That would have been yesterday. No such thing. A cyclone slammed into Gujarat from the sea last June, killing at least 1,000 people. Which I guess could explain why they'd be afraid, but the point of this story, of course, is that these prophecies are just nonsense, but people take them seriously. Officials at Alang said work had been paralyzed at more than 170 yards, and shops in the district had pulled their shutters down. We don't even have a skeleton staff, port officer in charge G.R. Radeja told Reuters by phone. And India buys 40% of its ships destined for scrap yards in international markets, and Alang alone accounts for a 95% share of the ships that are broken up in the country. Anyway, Nitin Kanakia, a shipbreaker at Alang, told Reuters television network, there is a booklet which stated that there will be a cyclone on May 8. Though it has not specified a location, the workforce here is going back to their home places. Scientists and astrologers said the prediction of a doomsday was a hoax. Scientifically speaking, this report is totally false, said Sanath Kumar, planetarium director in New Delhi's Nehru Planetarium. The industry stood to lose about $60 million due to non-availability of labor.
Amazing.
Folks, do not take these kinds of predictions seriously. Find out what they're based on, and if they're not based on something reliable, for example, if they're based on astrology, don't believe it. Don't go home and leave your jobs. It's just stupid. And now, this is interesting. There's been a development in the Kosovo religious front. I've been reporting that the media has been sweeping under the carpet the fact that Serbia is a self-proclaimed Christian nation, and apparently we just recently, Pope John Paul and Romania's Orthodox Christian Patriarch, who, for some reason, throughout this story, CNN brushes under the carpet all of the details of the Orthodox Christian church leader. It's all about Pope John Paul, and it just mentions that the other guy was there. Anyway, they appealed in the name of God to those who in one way or another are responsible for the current tragedy. So they basically got together and said, we're not taking any sides in this, we're just going to say it's icky that people are getting killed. You would have thought that if they really cared what was going on, they'd have come out when, say, the ethnic cleansing started and said, well, we're coming out against the ethnic cleansing. They waited until there was bombing going on so they could come out against both sides at once and not risk anybody rejecting their church. The appeal was issued on the second day of John Paul's historic visit to Romania, a mainly Orthodox country that borders on Serbia. Before the visit, some in Romania questioned inviting a religious leader from the West while NATO was bombing fellow Orthodox Christians in Serbia. Anyway, they got together and did this, and another exciting point mentioned in the story is that it's been, let's see, this was the first visit by a pope to a mainly Orthodox country in nearly 1,000 years. So you might want to ask yourself, why did it take them 1,000 years for these two religious groups to get together? It didn't take that long for Russia and the United States to get to be pals again after communism took over. So at least enough that they could meet. I mean, that was happening almost immediately. So it just highlights what a complete farce religion is. It takes them 1,000 years for these two religious groups to start talking to each other, and when they do, all they do is come out and make a completely bland, nobody should be killing anybody kind of statement, which is, of course, true, and I support that. I'm glad they did at least that. But again, if in fact, if these two guys are going to combine their moral authority, you would think they would start expressing that moral authority when there were initially things to have moral statements about, like ethnic cleansing, and not wait until they could say something that would work for everybody. So anyway, that's the development there. It's still fundamentally a religious problem in Serbia. It's still Orthodox Christians versus Muslims, and this doesn't change any of that. As much as I appreciate that those two guys on the Christian side got together and made a statement. It would have been nice had they invited a Muslim guy with moral authority to make a statement, but they didn't. So there's that you have to take into consideration too. And that's the news.
Interesting point. It's amazing what little bit of research I've done on that. Some of these countries are claiming territorial rights because of something that happened 2,000 years ago.
Sure.
And it's like, man, how can, once you start talking history that long, it's just hard for Americans to comprehend that.
Well, sure, because if Americans took that seriously, we'd all have to go back to Europe.
Yeah, you got a point there. Yeah. So, just want to remind everyone, this show is brought to you by Atheist Community of Austin, and we meet down at the Hot Jumbo Bakery. When we get done here, we head down there. That's West 5th and Lavaca, between Guadalupe and Lavaca. So I've been told what a difficult time it is finding the place because of all the one-ways down there. But we're getting a message here that we have a phone call, so let's try it here. Dan?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. I got a question. I hear you guys continue to comment on morality.
Yes.
I would like to know what your definition of morality is.
My definition of morality.
Yes.
Jeff has been saying some really good things about morality, I think, that really appeal to me. What is morality, Jeff?
Morality is a set of rules or guidelines on how you should behave toward one another.
Okay, that's a good definition, but where does your source of morality come from?
There is no source. you look at what happens when you act certain ways, and you learn from that, and you develop a set of rules based on past experience to guide you into not making the same mistakes again.
Do you agree with that, Dan?
Well, I agree with it, but what I would like to know is where do you think the origin of morality comes from?
Well, that's like asking where do I think the origin of gravitation comes from. I mean, it doesn't really come from anywhere. It is the way things are.
Well, I was going to say,
that's not a good answer, but go ahead.
Through evolution, we're social beings, and through evolution, they're us coming together as social beings is where it came from.
That's right. If we were isolated, still trying to hunt things in the jungle or the woods, it would probably be a lot different. But we have developed to the point where we interact with each other all the time, and it makes sense. It just makes sense to try to behave in such a way that that it maximizes all of our happiness, security, health, and all that. So that there is behavior that at some time in the past people began to think of as right and wrong. But I would certainly disagree, and you really haven't put that out there yet, but I would certainly disagree with anyone that would try to say that our morality is like downloaded from an authority. And I think one idea that questions that is the fact that there are moral dilemmas. Do you agree that there are moral dilemmas?
Oh, of course. Okay.
Well, if our morality was downloaded from a mystical source or from any source at all, I don't think there would be any. I think we would agree on things like capital punishment and abortion, things that people that are trying hard to find the right answer disagree strongly about.
Well, I think as long as we have, the freedom of thought, that we're going to disagree as a people on just about everything. There's not one issue that you can come up with that everybody's going to agree with. But as far as morality is concerned, I would think that in order for morality to be defined, there would have to be a supreme example of morality.
But why? Why would there have to be that supreme example? I mean, we didn't have a
there's no supreme example.
Not just a second. We didn't have a supreme example of, say, aerodynamics.
No, but we did have a source of aerodynamics.
What is the source of aerodynamics? Aerodynamics is a field.
Then who? If you don't have a source or an example, then where do you get your definition from, and what makes your definition accurate or true or right or any more?
Well, you didn't have a problem with my definition. Do you have a problem with my definition?
Excuse me? No, I think your definition is good, but there would be someone else who would say that killing someone that wrongs them is moral.
Sure. I mean, you will have that. That is absolutely the case. You will have, and there are groups out there that have thought that it was moral to kill people who are their enemies.
Yeah.
Okay. And?
Well, what makes their definition any more wrong than someone else's definition that says that it's wrong?
Well, unfortunately, you can't point to some outside source and say that's the reason why it's wrong. What you can do is you can say, well, gosh, we're living in this society where we don't condone that, and we've structured the way we live around the idea that you don't do stuff like that. And if somebody from some other group comes into our group and starts killing people for they think it's right, what we do, because we have a society where you don't act that way, is we chase down that person and we execute them or throw them in prison, whatever the law of the state happens to be.
That's true, but the laws of our states in America, I'm pretty sure that many would argue derive from the Ten Commandments.
Yes,
and they would argue that. They would be wrong. That's the Ten Commandments derive from some priestly codes and the Code of Hammurabi, which were, I think, a better example of early laws. But laws evolve. They're not written on any tablets anywhere. They're what we work out as best, and we struggle with them. And that's part of how this happens. Now, you mentioned that there needs to be a supreme example, and I suppose that you're talking about the God of the Bible. And first, let me point out that the God is as described in the Bible is not a very good moral example. And let me say that there are certainly moral examples in my life.
The supreme example, if you really want to refer, I didn't mean to cut you off, I'm sorry, but the supreme example, if you want to refer to it, that I am talking about is Jesus Christ.
Okay, I'd say that that's certainly not an example that I would want to follow.
Did not Jesus? Is not Jesus credited in the Bible with saying, "Take those people that don't believe in me, bring them before me, and kill them"? No,
what chapter and verse is that in the Bible?
Okay, we're going to hunt that down for you.
I got it. Luke 19:27. Man,
I got the big book here.
Just to finish my statement, there are examples. There are, I'm sure in your own life, there were role models of people that you thought of as moral. Maybe your dad or an uncle or somebody that, as you look back on your life, that guy was really trying to do the right thing. And there are people like that I can think of in my life too, that I may not have agreed with everything they said, but that I think we're just good people. Is it in red also? Because that's a red letter Bible. Does that mean it's something that Jesus said?
Supposedly.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
What does 19:27 say?
Luke 19:27. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me.
Yeah.
There's your supreme moral example.
And you also got to remember that in the New Testament, where Jesus is supposedly speaking for God, is where you first get the idea of hell, which was, as far as I know, was not a Jewish idea at that point, which a lot of us have a problem with when you're talking about morality, and then you just divide everybody up into those that are on your side and those that aren't, and torture the ones you don't like forever. That's questionable.
Well, if you have two roads that lead to two different destinations and someone chooses a road that goes to one place, then who's to blame that person for choosing his own destination?
Who built the roads?
That's the philosophy of hell, is that hell is a destination, and the person who decides to go down that road is going to end up there.
Okay, but you're saying that this is a moral system. And if you want to say that this is the truth, this is how this game is actually played, and this is what the results of these actions would be, then I'm not, if that's what you think is true, then I'm not going to change your mind. However, when you say that this is all right and proper, I'm going to tell you that I disagree.
Well, basically, I'm not saying what I'm basically saying. My question to you guys was, what is your definition for morality, and what was its origin? And my reason for asking that question is that how can you define morality or rest on a definition of morality if you don't rely on a source? I mean, it's like you just grab something out of the air and say, okay, this is what it is, when all things have a source.
And I told you what our definition of morality was, and you didn't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And
you had a good definition.
And I'm going to try an example here, okay?
Okay.
It's a little abstract, but bear with me. Can we get a camera here down on the table? Can we get a camera down on the table?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a mug. Get the mugs on camera. There we go. It's
a nice mug.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We'll use that camera. Okay. There's a mug. Here's another mug. Right?
Yeah.
The second mug is behind the first mug. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You would agree?
Yeah.
Where did behindness come from?
The behindness
is a relationship between physical objects. There's no supernatural source. It just happens. Now let's go to the other camera. Go to the other and get the
side. He wants the side view.
Let's get camera one. Camera one. Zoom in. Not perfect because. Okay.
Thank you.
They're not behind anymore. From a different perspective, they're not behind. Where did the behindness go? My point in all this is that there are relationships between things that are meaningful to us from certain perspectives and not from other perspectives, and that's perfectly natural and perfectly okay. It's got to be okay because that's just the way things are. And morality is like that. Morality is a set of rules that we come up with that's modeled on our past experiences that works for us, but it doesn't have any fundamental truth behind it. It's just what works. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I understand what you're getting at, but you're still tap dancing around the fact that all things have a source.
No,
I mean, all
I just
things
showed you
have
that
an origin.
behindness does not have a source.
All things have an origin.
What
I mean,
was the source of behindness?
Huh?
What is the source of behindness?
The source of the origin of behindness is derived from frontness. I mean, if there was no frontness, then
Okay, and where'd frontness come from?
To take your, I mean,
None of this goes back to any
those
kind
two
of
mugs that
supernatural
you have
being saying
again.
that's the way it's going to be.
take those two mugs that you have again.
They're words describing relationships between
Yeah.
stuff that we made up that
They're
are
relative.
convenient to us in some circumstances and not in others. And there's
Exactly,
no
they're
ultimate
relative.
fundamental truth to it.
They're relative. Which
They're
means
relative,
If
that's
you take
correct.
away, if you take
And
away
so is
that
morality,
which is,
sir.
If you take away that which is related to, then your definition of whatever that relative source exists and no longer exists. For
That's
example,
correct. If you took away all the people...
If you take away that mug in front,
Yeah.
then your behindness, as you coined,
That's right.
no longer
That's
exists.
right. And if you take
so
away...
therefore,
say you have,
the source of the behindness derived from you putting that mug in front.
Sure. And
so
the
there was an
analogy...
origin there.
The analogy in morality is if you've got a set of people over here who
Could you,
say that it
pass on over the,
is always wrong to kill
headphones
anybody under any
for-
circumstances,
I can't see
and
the
then you have
light
another group of
on
people over here who say,
three,
no,
which
from
I
our
haven't
perspective,
raised his hand
it's
or
okay to
something.
kill people who are your enemies, right? And you take away, when they're both there, you have an ethical dilemma. When you take away one group, you no longer have an ethical dilemma.
Well,
But you never had a fundamental truth to begin with.
Well, here we go with another perspective.
Quickly,
I'm sorry.
we have other callers here.
I know, my example's a little abstract, and then it's probably caused more trouble than it solved. But
Right.
We have a bunch of other callers, so make your point quickly.
Okay, well, my point is that all things have an origin, and the origin of our definition as a nation that we use of morality comes from God. And I don't think that can be questioned, that if you take away the biblical definition of morality, then you no longer have a standard of morality. All you have is a theory of morality, and the only thing that can define that theory as true is the one who invented morality, and that would be God.
no,
What is the
The example of
biblical?
morality is Jesus Christ. And I don't think that anybody could go wrong in their lives by living their life the way he did.
Okay, well, I got to let you go.
All right, thanks, guys.
Have a great week, and go ahead and make your closing points on that.
well, okay, that's just fundamentally false. We've shown you how you can construct a system of morality by building on your knowledge of past experience and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And when you do that, you get a moral system that you build a culture around, and then that works within that culture. But that's no guarantee that other cultures that have built differently on different experiences are going to have exactly the same morality, or that they should necessarily. That is going to be a source of conflict, and we just have to live with that and try to get along as best we can.
And I think with the direction the caller was going, he's under the impression that there's absolute moral truths, and I don't think there is such a thing as an absolute moral
Yeah, I
truth.
wanted to ask him one more thing about that.
There are, the fact that there are moral dilemmas puts that idea to rest.
Right.
I mean, how can you say that there's absolute moral truths? We know what morality is. We just have to follow along the set of rules. And then have these serious moral dilemmas from people who pray for guidance and all that. It should just download, but it doesn't.
He didn't
work.
say this, but I can understand. I can imagine what his response to that would be, which is that, well, those other people are just wrong, right? We have free will, and so you can be wrong about the ultimate moral truth, but we over here, we're the ones with the real right one.
Right, we have the truth.
The problem is that even your decision to if the person who called is still listening, even your decision to choose to accept the Bible as the source of your morality is fundamentally a decision on your part, and not something that just was automatically true. And you decided, you looked at the rules that you think Jesus lived by. For some reason, you ignore the ones that are inconvenient for you, like take people that won't follow me and kill them. But you looked at those and decided that was a reasonable morality to live by. So at some point, you still made a decision. And if you could make a decision about that, you could make a decision every step of the way. At every point where there is an ethical problem, you could, instead of just grabbing the whole Bible and saying, well, this is the set of rules I'm always going to live by, except the ones that are inconvenient, you could say, well, I have a new situation I'm in. What is the thing that is the right thing to do now that will be the best for everyone, that will make my life and everybody else's life the smoothest and nicest for everybody? You could do that. And it would make more sense as far as we're concerned.
And do you have something you want to add to?
Sure. I noticed he didn't have just a whole lot of problem with things in the Bible that are a big issue with us. The Bible is not a moral guide. The passage that we read, I think, points that out very clearly. Yeah. I think there are a lot of these people that claim that that moral guidance comes from God or Jesus or the Bible. When you examine their morality, they reject a lot of the stuff that is in the Bible, like the slaying of non-believers. Those callers that are holding on, please be patient. We'll get with you in just a second. We think this is important. Yeah, morality is kind of a big deal. It comes up a lot, and we have a lot to say on the subject. If the Bible is not if you can't pick that up and get morality from it, then what does it mean when you insist that you can? What does it mean when you tie morality to a religion, which a person can, as Jeff mentioned on another show, you say all morality is tied to this religion, and a person may go along and eventually start to question that religion. Does that mean that all morality is therefore unbased and they can just be immoral?
Yeah.
Isn't it more reasonable to teach people principles?
Well,
moral principles.
See, and this is I think what's ultimately behind the whole fundamentalist movement. You can have a society based on some set of moral rules you pick out of the Bible that are the ones you talk about, and you sort of brush the other ones under the carpet. You can do that and have a whole society based on that and have that society function because everybody is operating by the same set of moral rules. As long as that society is insulated from the rest of the universe, as long as you never meet anybody who disagrees, as long as you never encounter a challenge to the existence of the supernatural being who is supposed to have made up those moral rules in the first place. And the problem is, in today's world, we cannot have a society like that. We have too much contact with people with different ideas. You can't have an authoritarian, holy book source of morality and expect to have a society that functions smoothly. And that's exactly what's happening now. The problem in our country is not that the biblical source of morality is being undermined, it's being taken out of schools and so on and so forth. That's not the problem. The problem is that it has to be taken out of schools because we look at the source and say, boy, we just can't prove this is true. We're never going to get everybody to agree that this is true. We need to have a basis for morality that everybody can agree is valid. And that's going to be common experience based on our past discoveries of what works and what doesn't. You can't argue that one guy killed another guy and a lot of people got mad, so don't kill people. And you can't go back then and say, well, no, it doesn't make people mad, so that wasn't right. At least that event happened. It is some real basis for morality.
All right, fantastic.
I'm sorry.
And I appreciate all the callers. We got a bunch of callers here, so let's go to Mike.
Hi, how you doing?
Fantastic.
I don't want to change the subject. I just want to.
We don't mind.
I want to continue it because I think it's very important. And
it is.
There's a typical argument of people that are religious is that morality is generated by some overriding theory, or in that case, the Ten Commandments, and that's why we're good. My contention is that morality is a direct result of intelligence. If you're selling potatoes and your neighbor is selling turnips, and you need turnips, you're not going to kill him. Because Jesus told you not to kill him. You're gonna be nice to him because he's going to supply you with what you need.
Sure.
And the same goes for every single relationship that you have with people. And intelligence to take it one step further, to get into someone else's mind, and to decide that they don't want to be hurt, because hurting, hurting hurts. That's the reason why you make moral decisions.
Right.
It's innate. It comes from intelligence, and it's got nothing to do with any a society that has religion versus a society that has no religion. And I don't know if we can find a society that does not have religion. I don't know if we can if we could get that society and study it and see where they get their morality from. But I would bet that they get it from intelligence.
Excellent point.
I think
it's got nothing to do with.
That's definitely part of the equation. No, seriously, you're exactly right. And let me just one more point, since we're on morality. If the religious people, the Baptists, the Catholics, and the Muslims are more moral than the rest of us, why are the prisons packed with exactly those groups? I don't quite understand that.
Well, I mean, I was brought up as a Catholic.
I was going to bring up the Catholics.
Heavily guilt experience type thing, where you don't do things because if you do something, you're going to go to hell. Well, I don't think that. In later years, I don't think back to being nice to someone because I'm going to go to hell. I think to be nice to someone because they want to feel the way I want to feel.
Excellent. For
one, and for two is that they've got something that I need, and it pays to be good to them. It pays
so there's kind of
on a selfish level, on a basic
enlightened self-interest, you might call it, in being moral and being fair with people. Is that how you?
Yeah, that's it, and that's what I think the structure of every society is based on. It's based on sheer intelligence. You've decided that harming someone is not good. It's not good for them, and it's not good for you. You've decided that being a good person, being a good role model is good for your children, just because it's the right thing to do. Right. And it's got nothing at all whatsoever to do with religion. And religion, as far as I'm concerned, is just a group of people getting together, deciding that people need to be controlled.
Yeah, exactly. I think the religious objection to the idea that morality comes from us looking at the way things are and figuring out what is the best thing to do is that, getting back to your example of the potatoes, suppose you don't need the potatoes, or suppose what you really you want the potatoes so much that you really want to own the farm that the potatoes come from, and then you go in and kill the guy either because you had no reason not to because he didn't need the potatoes, or because your desire for potatoes would be fulfilled by you killing the guy and getting him out of your way, and they don't want to believe that there can be situations like that. They don't want to believe that there can be situations where you have no moral reason not to do a thing that wouldn't normally be considered bad, and they don't want to think that you could ever be justified in using violence to get what you want. The problem, of course, is that you look at the history of religion, and it's all about breaking their own moral rules to get what they want. The fact is that there are those dilemmas. We have to deal with them, and that's why this issue is so important. And that's why we got to think about morality seriously and not, brush it off and say, well, God says so that's all there is. We have to look at those situations. And I think the answer to the reason why it is not okay to kill the guy with the potatoes just because you don't need his potatoes, or to kill the guy with the potatoes to get his farm, is that if everybody acted like that, it wouldn't work.
That's right.
That's just a deeper level of intelligence that you have to apply to these questions. And people who aren't applying intelligence, who are just saying, well, it's got to be from this holy book, they don't think these things through. And so, of course, to them, it seems like if you don't have the holy book, then you'll just go wild and crazy and just destroy everything, because they've never thought about whether what they're doing is really right or really wrong or really makes any sense.
Of course not. What happens to the dynamics of the community if I go and take over this farm that's next to my farm? Are they going to, is the rest of the community going to support me as a person?
It's not just that. It's that the next guy along comes and kills you and takes it away from you. Yeah. If you don't have some ethical restrictions against that kind of behavior, then the whole society just ripped itself apart.
Well, that's when it gets back to my feeling about ethics being directly related to and a result of intelligence.
You're right. I agree.
And I personally feel, and then I'll get off the phone, but I feel that this is just my opinion, my observation, that most very religious people I've met have become religious because they need to control some impulse that they have no other way to control.
I do appreciate you calling. We have a bunch of other callers online.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
And want to invite everyone down to the Hot Jumble Bakery. Once we leave here, Atheist Community of Austin meets at the Hot Jumble Bakery, and it's free and open to the public. And what? Oh, it's West 5th and Lavaca. Is it? All right, let's go on down to Sam here. Sam?
Hi, I'm here.
Morning, Sam.
Good morning. And yeah, I pretty much agree with you people. The religious people are always acting like they know more about morality and ethics than people who are not. It's completely the opposite. The whole idea of theistic religion is to short-circuit any kind of moral reasoning or debate. So you don't have to argue about. To me, now I also don't agree with what one of you said about that it's just relative to culture. No, that's not true either. It comes from human welfare, right? What's good is what benefits somebody. What's bad is what harms somebody.
Can I respond to that for just a second? Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
What I mean by that is there are cultures out there that think, for example, or did. I mean, we're pretty much past this now. But there are cultures out there who thought that the king really did have some divine right to rule, and so they would base a system of morality around that assumption. And when you have assumptions like that in play, you're going to get rules of morality that make a functional culture. But it's a functional culture where everybody who's not the king gets shafted. And I'm just saying that's what you get. We don't like that because we think that everybody has individual rights. But you can get societies that are based on that can function, and that's all I was saying.
All right, but still, I don't think it's sort of cultures are above judgment. Like some people talk about cultural relativity.
I agree.
Well, you have something like, I think it's called Suchi in India. I think we know what that is, right? And all right, I think we can agree, and even people there can mostly agree, this is a bad thing because it's very harmful to the person that gets thrown in the fire, even though it's in their culture. I don't care if it's in their culture. It's still wrong. It comes from human welfare. If there weren't any humans, there wouldn't be any morality. The sort of the religious point of view, at least of like the Christians and people like that, is totally in reverse of that, right? Like if you ever look at something called the Book of Saints, if you haven't, you ought to. Some of the Catholics put out the lives of their saints. And all right, I'm sure you know what their saints were like. Basically, the more they suffered, the more they made themselves miserable and old people around them, the better they were. It's totally in reverse. Or they just act like anything that's pleasurable, right? Or that gives somebody kind of more control over his life, they act like that's evil. Their view is just exactly in reverse, and we have to dump these fools off our backs. We shouldn't let them say anything about morality or be any kind of position to rule over anybody because they're in reverse, right? What's good is what helps somebody, what makes somebody happier, what gives them more control of their life, not like they're saints. God does not glory in our suffering. I don't believe that. If he does, he's certainly no friend of ours.
Good point.
Good point.
Yeah, you brought up some good ideas.
Well, I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
And you have a great week.
Have a nice one yourself, sir.
Thank you. Getting some good smart callers this morning here. Let's go on down to Martha.
Hi, how are you guys doing this morning?
Fine. Good. Hi, Martha.
Right. I have a point to bring up about basing our morality on any religion. I'm not just talking about Christianity.
All right.
If we base our morality on a set doctrine, a book, so to speak, just to use simple terminology there, just a written religious book, that doesn't leave us room for change and growth and learning. For example, the cultures that still feel it's okay to kill a young girl that is no longer a virgin, but she's not married. They consider her no longer eligible to be married, so the brother actually, or the father, actually has the moral obligation to kill her.
Yeah.
They absolutely base this on their religion. They've got it. This is something that's been happening for hundreds of years. Because they are so stagnant in their religious beliefs, there is no change going on except from people that are from outside their culture saying, wait a minute, how do you consider this moral? You can't change and grow and learn. 100 years ago, it was absolutely okay in this country for a father to slap his child because he was back-talking, to abuse his child, or to abuse his wife because she didn't have dinner on the table at the time she was supposed to. We don't accept that today in this culture. If our country was so fixated on sticking with the morals of the Bible, we wouldn't be growing, learning, and changing, which I think is a very, very important part of being a human. That's what sets us a little different from a lot of, from the animals, We have that capability of rationalizing and of changing. Yeah. I personally think some animals have the ability to rationalize, but that's a different topic.
I'd like to strongly agree with you. That's a very important point about ethics and morality. I think at the time the Bible was written, probably a lot of the things that we're just horrified about, probably wasn't a real big deal to people back then. One example is ethnic cleansing that every American I know of thinks is, boy, this is just terrible behavior to try to wipe out the people that have a different philosophy or religion or whatever, different culture. But there's parts in the Bible where that's just fine. That's how you do business. And for the people that wrote that, it probably was. Well, our civilization, our morality, our ethics have evolved since then. I think you're exactly right.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd like to bring up is if our Constitution or our laws of this country are supposedly based on the Ten Commandments, then why are only about half of them included as laws? About half of the Ten Commandments are not even
incorporated
things that you can do laws about.
Right.
Like
Holy
not
Sabbath
having
Day.
any other God before me, and So
Good
those
point.
people who think that our laws are based on the Ten Commandments need to reread the Ten Commandments and figure out which ones really are laws, and which ones have anything to do with morality, actually.
Right, and that thing about the Sabbath, if the Sabbath was so special, why did they change it to Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
If there really was a God and he did all the things that all the destroying and stuff in the Bible, I wouldn't mess with that. I think that's very risky.
Well, I appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely want to invite you down to the Hot Jumbo Bakery and come meet us in person. We love meeting our callers.
I'll sure try one weekend. I can't do it today, but maybe next weekend I'll be able to.
You have a great week.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks, Martha.
It's going down to Duane.
Hey, how are you doing this morning?
Fantastic.
Hey, I was calling. One thing I noticed with these guys, kick this morality, especially from the Christian perspective, is that they ignore most of the world's population. Like these guys, what they call them, the Indians, the Southern Asian people.
Yeah.
All right.
Like Indians, people in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, the people in Indonesia, Malaysia. That's way over 1 billion people. Then you have China. That's like 1.2 billion people. There are people all over the world who aren't Christians. Never had Judaism, right?
Right.
Don't have Islam. And they've been practicing this stuff for thousands of years. And it's like God created morality, but why didn't God ever get in touch with these guys? You know what I'm saying? The American Indian. Why didn't he ever get in touch with the American Indian? You know what I'm saying? They never had the holy books. They never said, you're a Gentile, you're a Jew, right?
Right.
They never had any of it. They never had any of these prophets. They never had any of this stuff given to them. They never were given the Ten Commandments. But yet these guys ignore total history and act like God is the base. But I'm saying, hey, then God forgot half of the planet, right?
Yeah.
Excellent point.
I mean, the last caller was saying that, if you base your morality on a holy book, then you don't have the flexibility to change. Well, I actually disagree with that a little bit, because obviously they do change, because they take the quotes from Jesus like, bring those people that don't worship me and slay them before me, and they ignore that stuff. So they are picking and choosing through their holy book
definitely.
what set of morals they're going to have. The freakish thing to me is that having picked and chosen the ones that they're going to decide our moral rules, they then go ahead and say, well, we're about 1/3 of the people on our planet are people that follow this religion, even though we're broken up into a bunch of little sects, and we all disagree about exactly which rules are the moral ones. But there's only about 1/3 of the world's population that are Christians. And yet, we're the ones that are right. We picked and chose exactly the right moral rules out of our holy book. It's just, if you're going to put together your own morality, which is ultimately what the Christians are doing by picking the bits of the Bible they're going to agree with, then at least think about what you're doing and don't just take it from a book and take the ones that seem convenient to you.
Okay, can I bring up two other quick points?
Yeah, please.
Another thing I noticed is that just because I used to be fascinated with the Bible, and I used to study the actual history, like they'll say Canaanites, right? So I went back and studied what religion these Canaanite guys had, because the Bible will tell you, oh, they worship Baal. But what I noticed is those guys who wrote that Old Testament, they forgot to tell you that they also worship El, who happens to be the God of the Bible. At the same exact time, they worship Baal, because they had more than one God. But in the Bible, they don't tell you that they worship the same God as the Israelites. You know what I'm saying? Because they had El, they had Baal. Those guys had wives like Asherah and Astarte and all this other stuff. But they won't tell you that in the Bible. They leave parts out. So basically, the same gods that the Hebrews had were the same gods as the Canaanites, but they don't tell you that in the Bible. And these guys who just go by the Bible are saying, oh, these guys worship Baal. Now, and they also worship the same God you had, which was El, which became Yahweh. And another thing, you guys were talking about morality and stuff, that Old Testament tells you that if you find a young lady and she's a virgin, you can go and force yourself on her, but if you take care of her, she's your wife. Oh. But if you violate her and don't take care of her, then you've committed rape.
Yeah.
And then you get punished for it.
And there were several countries that still have those laws on the book. They're in the process of changing those nowadays. But yeah, if a rapist married his victim, then he'd be innocent of the charge.
Yeah, and I'm saying, wait a second. If this society was based on that from the beginning, how many young ladies and families would be accepting guys doing that today? Yeah, you could basically pick and choose who you wanted to be your wife. And just one last quick thing, guys. I'm a black American guy, and I really get upset with this guy who calls you guys shows, and they tell you that America was founded on morality from the Bible.
Right.
Thank you.
And I'm saying, hey, wait a second, dude. You're going to go and kill off Indians with the ethnic cleansing, then bring some guys across the ocean and put them to work and tell them to go to work on the same land, and then this guy's going to jump on the phone and say America was founded with the morality of the Bible. Sure. And it just sounds crazy. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great week.
Okay.
He's called a lot. That's an interesting guy.
Yeah, I recognize his voice. But go ahead, Jeff. You had a point?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, it kind of was, depending on what bits of the Bible you pick and choose, right? I mean, if you choose the passages in the Bible that talk about how you should manage your slavery business, and how you should manage your slaves that you own, well, then that can be viewed as support of slavery. And if you pick those passages as the ones you're going to believe, then that would explain the fact that we did have slavery in this country, which, and that they weren't thinking about human rights. They were just taking their favorite passages from their Bible. What amazes me is that when we finally got around to questioning whether slavery was a good idea or not, you had just as many people pointing to the Bible and saying it justified slavery as you had pointing to the Bible and saying, well, it's bad because the Bible says, generic things about human rights. If people who wrote the Bible really believed in those human rights, they wouldn't have been talking about how to manage your slaves in the first place, it seems to me.
Excellent.
Well, anyway, that's a real good point. Recently there was a debate at UT, which I did not attend, but I read a deal about it in the paper. And I believe the pro-atheist side was, now I massacred his name before, but I think it's Dr. Stephen Weinberg. And one of his comments that was reprinted in the paper was that religion can lead ordinarily moral people into doing immoral things. And I think slavery is a good example of that from the past, and treatment of homosexuals is a good example from the present.
Excellent point. Yeah. All right, let's go on down to Michelle.
Morning, guys.
Good morning,
Michelle.
Here's your atheist mother.
Yeah,
thank you. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, actually, I was just along those woman lines. I was reading the paper this morning about record numbers of people going to church and how the pastors and everybody aren't surprised that mostly it's minorities and women. And this one sentence just really irked me. It says, displaced people always try to find an identity and a source of acceptance. They found that in Jesus Christ. Christianity offers liberation.
What was this article about again?
It's in the Metro section. It says, survey, more going to church. Minorities, women are leading the return to houses of worship. Texas poll says.
I'd want to know who conducted that poll.
Yeah, let's see.
Is the National Day of Prayer, by all reports that I've run into, was a big bust. It was reported in the Statesman, I believe. Somebody told me that that hundreds of people across the state of Texas participated in the Day of Prayer. Not millions, not even thousands, hundreds. And boy, if that's the state of Christianity, I guess then in that case it wouldn't take much for church attendance to go up. But I'd like to see who.
Well,
who actually
you know what?
conducted the poll.
What really always, it's like they say it's liberation, but what it really, it's like these people go to church because their life sucks so bad that the religion teaches them, well, that's okay, just accept it because you'll get your reward when you die, which basically just keeps people down. It makes people think, well, it's okay if you treat me badly. It's okay if I'm a slave. Because when I die, God is going to reward me for being stoically surviving my life.
Yeah.
And I would like some Christian women to call in and tell me how being a good Christian wife, I mean, does she really enjoy being treated like this, you know, like as a second-class citizen, as some people in religion treat them? Or is it looking forward to, if I do all these things, I'm going to get my reward in heaven? Is that her motivation for this or what? You know, I don't understand this myself.
And I don't understand, you know, they're talking minorities and women because they've been persecuted through history so much by religion that they would find solace, you know, solitude there in religion. It amazes me. Well, they don't do the research on the history, I guess.
Well, let's face it. As it's come up before on the show, there are things about religion, things about participating in a church that feel good. That there is the social interaction, there is reinforcement, there's this thing about you participate, you give of your time and yourself, and you feel like you're doing God's work, you're doing a good thing, and it is rewarding to do something that you feel good about. If anybody that's done a volunteer project or something like that, you know that there's some reinforcement there. That's why some people get addicted to it, and churches have that same kind of thing. We feel like that our organization offers some of those benefits. Would you agree with that, Michelle?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Anyway, I need to go so I can get to bagels, so I'll see you guys
we'll
later.
See you down there.
See you in a little bit. All right, let's go on down to John.
Hello.
Good morning,
John.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Doing good.
God rules, Baldy.
Are you speaking in tongues, sir?
God rules, Baldy.
We're trying to figure out if you're speaking in tongues.
God rules, Baldy.
All right, we gave you a chance. And I can't believe you hung on hold all that time just to do that. No. Going down to...
I can't believe he kept on with it so long.
Wayne.
Well, yeah, I hear y'all talk a lot about the Bible.
Yeah?
Do y'all believe it's true?
No.
Well, then, I just don't understand. Do you take it as an authority?
I'm having a hard time hearing. What was your question again?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out why you keep referring to it if you don't believe in it.
Because it gets thrown into our face constantly, each and every day, and they're saying that that's the reason for their actions is this book, and then they'll throw out chapter and verse, and we're telling them to do the research, read the whole book. Just don't pull out bits and pieces, and you'll find that it's so full of contradictions and misinformation that to base anything on that book would be a foolish thing to do. But it's just because, and I don't like to use the word opponents, but because we don't try to be confrontational with the Christians or whatever, but they're coming knocking on our door trying to give us the book.
Yeah, but you just said that they take it verses out of context without reading the whole book. But you did the same thing a while ago when you talked about Luke 1927.
Oh, yeah?
That was.
That was out of context?
Yes, it was.
Okay, well.
Really? Let's hear about the context.
We're looking up the chapter and verse as we speak. Please inform us how we're out of context.
Well, let me tell you this. If you don't believe the whole Bible, then how can you believe one verse? Because that one verse.
Now, wait a minute. We don't have to believe that there was a guy named Jesus who said these words in order to criticize the people who do believe that there was a guy named Jesus, who ignore the fact that their holy book, which they think contains his words, says these words.
But when you take a verse out of context to support your position, then you're doing the same thing you blame the Christians for doing.
How is it out of context?
Because
how is it out of context?
There was a prophecy, and you were using it to as though Jesus was telling people to go get somebody and them right there.
That's we have it word for word. That's exactly what the Bible's saying.
Yeah, but see, the reason I'm not going to discuss that with you is because you don't believe that Jesus was the Son of God.
I don't believe Jesus was a real person. No, I do not believe that Jesus walked on this earth. He was not a real person.
Therefore, you can't believe in his prophecy.
We don't, but we do believe that there are Christians out there who say that this book is full of the direct words of God and that this book is a moral guide.
It is.
And if those people say this book is a moral guide, but their figure that they are following says, but those mine enemies which would not that I should reign over them, bring them hither and slay them before me, you've got to take responsibility for the fact that your holy book says this.
It says that in a prophetic sense.
In a prophetic sense?
Yes, and if you don't believe that Jesus is coming back again, one day you will bow your knee before him and say that he's Lord.
And that's
according to his word.
And you find peace.
And that's completely reprehensible.
You find
excuse me, sir, are you an American? Are you aware that a little over 200 years ago, people moved from England to this country so we could stop having kings, so we could stop the tyranny of powerful individuals telling everybody else how they had to be and how they had to live just because they were powerful?
Is that the reason you're an atheist? You don't want God to reign over you?
No.
I'm telling you because I'm American, I don't recognize the power of kings. I do not recognize that might equals right, which seems to be ultimately what Christianity comes down to.
Well, basically what Christianity comes down to is that the God who created us has the authority and the sovereignty to do what he wants to do with us.
Why? What gives? Imagine for a moment a human scientist creates intelligent life in a laboratory, and then says, "Hey, you laboratory creation, you must now worship me. I have the right because I created you." You wouldn't agree with that. What's different if instead of a human scientist making a guy in a laboratory, it's a God creating human beings in a universe? What's the difference? It's still morally bankrupt. No being, no matter how powerful it is, has the right to exert its will to force other people to live a certain way. That's just wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. And the United States was founded on getting rid of the idea that kings have any kind of right to tell people what to do.
So what's
wrong with you?
What do you use as a source to? Who are you to say that God is wrong?
Our founding fathers said that might does not make right over 200 years ago.
Who are our founding
Do you think might does make right? Excuse me, sir. Do you think that just because some being is a whole lot more powerful than another, that powerful being automatically has the right to tell the lesser beings to worship it?
I am saying that...
No, answer my question, yes or no.
Now, see, you won't give me...
Sir, answer my question, yes or no. Does might make right?
God is right.
All right, and I do appreciate your call, but you got any other points? I got a bunch of other callers to get to.
Well, that's my only point is that he was taking the Bible out of context and trying to use it to
all we're doing...
And he don't even believe the Bible. So who is he to say that God is wrong? And basically that's what he's saying. He's saying that if there is a God, he's wrong.
Yeah, if there is a God, he's wrong. That's correct. If there is a God, and that God says that because I'm so much more powerful than you, you have to do as I say, right? If there is such a being, that is an evil being.
That is not why God says that. God does not say, because I'm this, then you do what I say.
Then what is the justification?
I love you. And as a response to my love, you ought to do what I say, and he gives us choices.
The love involving taking people that don't worship him and slaying them.
And you know, I like the analogy that dude gave, talking about a choice of roads that you go down.
Right.
Now, see, you chose to be an atheist. Now,
Right.
if in the end of it all you're wrong, then you chose to go to hell. I choose to be a Christian.
Excuse me.
Because I like
I am a thinking being.
Exactly.
I live in a universe. Now, if a God made this universe and set it up so that if I, a thinking being, have to turn off my brain and start believing something just 'cause, right? Just 'cause people tell me God loves me, I ought to believe in him. When there is not a scrap of evidence, there's not a scrap of evidence I can look at to show me that that being exists in the first place, but I'm supposed to believe him anyway. And if I don't, then there's this road that I go down by default that punishes me for eternity. Then the being that set up this whole situation is fundamentally evil.
Were you born an atheist?
Yes, all people are born atheists.
And I didn't ask you that to be argumentative or anything, but what I'm saying is that you made a choice.
Okay, we did.
I actually did, because even though all people are born atheists, because all people are born without even the idea of the concept of God, even though I was born that way, I was raised in a Methodist family, and I was indoctrinated with all these beliefs. But eventually I got over it.
Well, good for you. I just want y'all to know Jesus loves you in spite of you.
In spite of that, okay.
And when you see him, you tell him one day Wayne said that you was wrong and you chose to go the wrong way.
Oh, I see. This is all about you scoring points with God. Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
You have a great week, Larry Wayne.
Yeah.
And, we do appreciate
Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that, Jeff.
It's not your fault, Wayne.
Yes.
You were raised that way.
I guess it's Roderick. Is that Roderick?
Good morning.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Good morning,
sir.
Roderick.
Good morning, sir. So I was flipping through the channel, saw your show, and I heard what they were saying. Okay, if God gives you life, he gives you the world, he covers you no matter what. Why it's like, why you kill a cow and turn it into a hamburger, The Bible itself just marks itself.
I'm having a hard time understanding you. I'm sorry. Did you?
I couldn't grasp any of that.
All right, the Bible itself marks itself, because God gives you life. Right? He gave you life. He gave you the world, he covers you no matter what. Right? True. True or not?
You're saying the Bible's mocking itself, but I don't.
Okay, wait, hold on. All right. If God gave you life, wait. If God gave you life, he covered you no matter what. He gave you everything, right? And all he says, don't hate him, right? Now, okay. It's like, why you kill a cow and turn it into a hamburger, and then you give it to me to eat, It's like a bird, right? It amuses you.
Right.
And then from there you steal the babies, and then from there you give it to us to eat. See what happened? A lot of these people are brainwashed people. They say slavery and this and that. And I'm glad you said a lot of people came from England, which is true. But unfortunately, everybody else came out here, and all those stuff, it's just strange. They try to use the Bible and point the finger, but they all eat meat. And they say they're Christians,
So
I'm not an atheist, believe it or not. I studied theology, and I never really did understood all this stuff, because it's totally strange to me.
Well, I do appreciate your call. We're running out of time.
Anyway, how you doing, sir? I'm a fellow bald-headed person like you,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, but it's...
All right, you have a great week.
I feel so out of place. So with a full head of hair.
Yes. All right.
Maybe it'll improve with time.
Let's go on down to Don.
Yes, hello. I had heard the lady earlier that asked if there were any women out there, Christian women, to call in, and I'm a little nervous, so...
Well, happy Mother's Day, by the way.
Thank you. I have a beautiful 6-year-old, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
But basically, I just wanted to kind of talk to her and tell her that in my marriage, that our relationship is more, I view it as a partnership, and my religion teaches me that it's a partnership.
Well, your particular branch, because the Baptist...
No, actually,
what denomination
honestly,
are you
too,
a member of?
I have a difficult time, saying religion, because religion has been so skewed by different men's points of view, and there's a lot of hypocrisy in it, and it's hard. It's hard to. I mean, I totally believe in God, and I do believe in Jesus Christ, and sometimes it's hard because you hear about there's so much abuse in religion, and so much has.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because just human nature.
Yeah.
Men, and I'm not trying to be critical of all men, because there are women that are just as bad, but men have been in power, and men like power, and you can gain power through religion, and it's horrible. I mean, when that happens, it just turns so many people away from religion. I mean, I was brought up in a very religious home, and there were years that I was just so appalled because I saw so much hypocrisy within my own family that they were dragging us off to church every Sunday, but all week long there were a lot of things going on in that home that totally went against what God teaches us. But at the same time, I'm at a point in my life where I stood back and said, you know what, this isn't God, this is man, and this is man pushing his will and perverting religion and perverting God's word.
But the interesting, you started the call off saying that you were a Christian. So
yeah, I am. I mean, if I have to identify myself.
But you're doing. It made it sound like you had your own denomination, that you went your own separate way.
Well, no, I did. You know, for years I didn't go to church, but now I'm involved in the Lutheran Church.
Lutheran.
And I have problems with the history within the Lutheran Church, but I like you gentlemen, am a thinking being, and I have to sit here and say, okay, you know what? Religion itself has been corrupted and perverted, but ultimately, I look at God's word, and I have to say, you know what? God is not corrupted. God is not perverted, and He loves me. And because He loves me, it makes me feel good.
But where are you getting your source of information then? If
I'm getting my source from.
Yeah, please tell me where you're getting your source of information on this God that you're describing.
Well, it comes from childhood. My father was a Catholic, my mother was a Methodist, and just from their points of views. And from just, you gentlemen see a lot of things. I mean, there are a lot of things that have occurred to you in your life that you base your opinions on. And my opinion, as far as, I say I'm a Christian because I believe in Christ. I can't identify with Judaism. I mean, although Christianity spawned off from Judaism, I can't say that I'm a Jew. I can't say I'm a Muslim. I'm a Buddhist, whatever. I have to identify with the Christianity because I believe in Jesus Christ. And my opinions are formed just like yours are, from just life experiences, and I take a little from here and a little from there.
Well, we're aware that there are more liberal takes on Christianity that do not have the heavy oppression of women aspect that I think that previous caller was referring to.
Yeah.
But and you said you believe that Jesus loves you. Well, given that there is such a guy in the first place, you're not the one who has a problem. It's those of us that don't worship Jesus that have to contend with the fact that the holy book that Christians are turning to tell them how to live has Jesus saying, take the people that don't believe in me and slay them before me.
Right, I heard that.
I mean, that's...
And I can't.
You got a Bible handy? We'll give you the chapter and verse.
No, I believe you. My goodness. I mean, you're right there. I can see you in the television. But
I couldn't be lying to you. I really think that you ought to look this up yourself.
You know what? There are so many verses in the Bible that say, talk about killing and just horrible things.
Sure.
And it's just like, to me, I don't understand it. I really don't. The only way I can answer to that is that men wrote it.
Yeah.
Men that had
we'd agree with that.
And not a God.
Right.
Not any kind of supernatural creator being.
It was supposed to be like divine influence came.
Inspiration.
Exactly. But you know what? There are so many things there, and the Bible itself contradicts itself. I mean, it's just, it's. I'm full of questions, just as you guys are, but I believe that I don't believe that God is going to be this evil person, or not evil, but this mean person that's just going to, everyone that doesn't like bow down before him is just going to be cast off and into hell.
Would you at least go as far as saying that if you at some point you realized there was a God and it was in fact an evil God, would you at least refrain from worshiping at that point?
Oh, well, duh.
Well, hey, I'm sorry if that comes off like a stupid question. But we seem to have a lot of people that do not grasp that concept. That that even if it turns out there is a God, it may not be a very nice creature. Well, I mean, it could be something that there's a lot of ideas expressed in the Bible that to us are, as Jeff said, evil.
If that's the case, we are all in deep doo-doo.
Well, probably so.
Because,
but
who wants
relax.
to go on to that?
We don't think we are. I mean,
right. That's why us atheists, when faced with a holy book that clearly demonstrates an evil supreme being, rather than believing in him and that he is evil and that we're all in deep doo-doo, we just say, well, this is utter nonsense.
Yeah, well, I respect your position. I don't agree with it, but I respect it, and I see how you could have that opinion when you have people like Falwell and other so-called religious leaders.
The abuses of religion are only one of many reasons why we refrain from believing.
Really? It's just because of also when you read the scriptures, you just see so many things that are just...
There's what's actually in the Bible. There's the abuses of religion. And there is the complete and utter absence of any evidence that the guy exists in the first place.
And I do appreciate you calling, and we love hearing from open-minded Christians there. Happy Mother's Day, by the way, if you're a mother.
Thank you again.
And
have a great day. Have a great day.
All right, we're running low on time, so let's try to get as many as we can here. Mike?
Yes.
Quickly.
I would like to bring this up. Earlier, someone mentioned the American Indian.
One of the callers did, yeah.
Okay. I'm an American Cherokee. Mm-hmm. Okay. I have my belief in the Cherokee people and their religion. Okay, if you want to refer to it as a religion. In a spirit, or in the spirit. Mm-hmm. Would you say that the Indians are atheists?
No, because they have a spiritual belief.
Okay, so do you separate yourself from the Indians? In other words, in your belief, do you separate yourself as an atheist from every belief?
Yeah,
every belief involving supernatural beings.
Yes.
Right.
So you believe that Indians are atheists?
No, do you believe in any kind of supernatural beings?
I believe in spirits, yes.
Spirits. Then that would make you not an atheist.
Divine spirits.
Okay,
yeah. That would make you not an atheist.
That would make me not an atheist.
That's correct.
Okay.
Although some religious people may want to call you that. Some people may say, you can believe in this God. If you don't believe in this God, though, you're an atheist. I don't accept.
Well, let me say this. I know that you're running short on time and all that, but let me say this. The Bible that you're referring to is the King James Version, I'm sure. Am I correct?
Yeah, that is the King James Version.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how the King James Version originated?
Yeah, the history involved in that. Yeah, it was a whole group of men came together and decided what books were going to be in there and what ones are not going to be in there.
King James.
No, that's when the Bible was first put together.
Oh yeah, the King James sat down and said that this is going to be the official Bible.
For tax reasons.
For tax reasons.
That's correct.
That's
correct.
Me.
Have you read the Quran?
No, but we have people in the group that have read the Quran.
Okay, then you'll find out that it's a different Bible, and that the Bible that you're referring to was edited
heavily
for King James in England.
Exactly.
Edited this Bible for tax purposes because the Quran refers to reincarnation, which Indians also believe in. The Cherokee faith believes in that. All right? This was edited for tax reasons because they didn't want people to think they got more time to pay their taxes. Okay. So,
I hadn't heard that take on it. That's a great.
Thank you.
okay.
Yes.
And but I'm saying I respect your opinion, and I understand. You know, I've been listening to your program. I agree with most everything that you say about the Bible. The fact that there's a lot of contradictory words in it. And I hope you have a good day and a good week. Thank you, sir.
You have a great time.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you for calling. Okay, let's go on down to Gertrude.
Good morning, Ray.
Good morning.
Hey, I got a question for you. What do you do when an atheist tracks mud all over your clean floor?
Did I do that?
Yes, you did.
Gummit.
Who is this, Ray?
It's not Gertrude. That's not her name. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I did that.
That's okay. I just wanted to call and let you know that we woke up early and we were watching.
Oh, thank you. I'll tell everyone I said hi. And I do apologize for that. And I did the same thing at my house. I woke up this morning and found mud in my house also. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
You
Bye.
take care. Bye. Yes, those are friends.
Around in a park last night or something?
Yes, I was. Let's go on down to Jennifer.
Hi. Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I just wanted to call and let you know that I do support your show. I watch every Sunday.
Thank you.
You are very articulate about your presentation, and I like how y'all do go through the whole Bible, and I have not read the whole thing myself, but I do like how y'all have gone through the whole thing, and y'all have a computer system set up to help y'all out there. And
thank you.
I just dig the show. Wanted to say
well, we want to invite you down to the Hot Jumbo Bakery so we can meet you in person.
Okay, sounds good.
Keep watching the show.
All righty.
And call again.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. We're down to 2.5 minutes, so let's go quickly to Frank.
Yeah. The reason I was calling, there?
Yeah, we got 2 minutes.
Was because I've been listening to y'all, and the first thing I want to say is that, you know, what makes it easier for a lot of people to believe in atheism is because of what man has done to religion. For example, you know, I'm a Christian man. I believe in it, but when I got into it, which was about 3 or 4 years ago, you know, the born-again experience and all of that. Now, once I started reading the Bible and I read through it and I started going to church, I noticed that there was a lot of things in the Bible that weren't being followed, let's say, in your, quote, religious, you know, setting.
Right.
My biggest pet peeve right now is that, you know, it's making it hard on those of us that do believe, because of the fact that when we have good, intelligent people like yourself who come up and say, look, this is fact and this isn't. Well, that's true, but you have to stop and look at it. What the man was quoting to about the Bible earlier, saying that the type of God that I love and that loves me is the type of God that says, well, if you don't believe in him, he's going to put you away. Well, that's true. He's referring to the Old Testament Bible.
No, that's not correct. That's from Luke, sir.
From Luke.
We got less than a minute, sir. Sorry.
That's Jesus's direct words in Luke.
It's in red letters.
In red letters.
Well, in this version of the Bible, I've highlighted everything Jesus
it's a red
said
letter
with
Bible.
red.
Okay, then stop and think about it. Now, if Jesus said that, then how? I don't know.
I gotta go. Yeah, that was a strange way to end the show there.
Sorry, we just ran out of time.
And then Oscar, I'm sorry we're running out of time. Please call back next week. We are brought to you by Atheist Community of Austin. There you go. Yes, I like that. And,
That's just one of many, yes.
Yes, there you go. We love you,
Hi, Lauren.
Austin.